What's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen. Get some.
Floyd Mayweather, thanks for coming out to the show. I just want to say, I want to see Roger Mayweather have a conversation with Shaq. Nobody can pick that shit up. They'd be like, how's him and him now? Anyway, him and him now. Him and him. Yeah, some of him and supersonic. All right, then. So what the fuck?
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen with the Get Some podcast. You can listen to this on iTunes. Just search Gary Owen, #GetSome. Search United We Cast. Or you can watch and listen on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/GaryOwenCom to listen. Just a little bit of disclosure. Right before we went to go record this episode, man, I had to take a shit. You ever be at that weird moment where I was 5 minutes from starting? Because the engineer that works on the podcast with me, we was like, dude, let's do noon. Okay, we're going to record this at noon. And I looked at my watch, that's 11:55. And in my brain, I'm like, okay, I probably could hold it, or maybe I can hold it. But I didn't want to be late. So it felt like it was going to be kind of an epic drop. And so literally we're starting like 3 minutes late because I was just like, there's nothing worse than being in a situation where you got to go, but you don't really got to go, but you're weighing the pros and cons. Like, we're probably going to spend an hour on the podcast. So I literally had to be like, drop one before the podcast. So I just want everybody to know what a good frame of mind I'm in right now. Like, I am relaxed. I feel like spring is here. When you drop a good one, everything seems better in the world when you're done, man. I just can't even explain how good I feel right now. It's my day so far. I woke up this morning, and when I'm in town, when I'm in Cincinnati, when I'm home, I get up around 8:30, and I leave about 8:50, and I got about a 30-minute drive, and I go to this place called Title Boxing. They're popping up all over the country, Title Boxing clubs. But they got a session from 9:30 to 10:30. So I'll do that, and then I'll come home afterwards and get a shower. And that's really when I start my day. It starts about 11:30, 12. But I had a podcast. I went to Title. I did that. I drank a lot of water. I ate some breakfast after boxing. And I don't know why it just hit me like bloop, 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 bloop. And I was like, I got to drop this before we go to air. And I feel amazing. My body, like, I think it plays tricks on me because I always have to use the restroom when I'm in a movie theater. Like, in the middle of the movie, I'll have to go. Just got to piss. But I always got to go, and I don't know why. I could watch a movie at my house, and I never got to get up. I could watch a movie in my hotel room and rent a movie off the TV, never got to use the bathroom. Movie theater, every time. And sometimes my wife will give me a side eye because I'll take my phone with me. Why are you taking your phone? And I always tell her, I go, because I don't know how long I'm going to be. The plan is to take a piss, but I don't know what's going to happen once I enter that male bathroom in the movie theater. So I might need something to entertain myself. Candy Crush, while I'm crushing the toilet. I always got to use the bathroom there, and I always make sure, even if I don't have to go, before I get on a flight, I don't care if it's an hour flight. I don't care if it's a 5-hour flight. I always go to the restroom when I get to the airport before I board the plane. And there ain't nothing worse watching a guy take a piss and just walk out, not even wash his hands. There's nothing. You know how you go to the post office and there's most wanted? There should be airport signs and pictures like, don't shake this dude's hand. Because they're basically spreading germs. He didn't piss. And then it kind of embarrasses the guy, and then he starts washing, and then they can take his picture down. But they should have like screenshots, like a little, you know how they got the TV screens at the airport with the departing and arriving flights. just have a rotating screenshot of guys and girls that don't wash their hands after they use the restroom. I bet you I'll give them to wash their hands. You ain't got to put the names up. Just show them walking out of the bathroom without using that sink. That's what kills me. That shit is, as a dude, if you don't wash your hands after it's on your dick and probably some piss came out of it, which could have backsplashed on you, when do you wash your hands? Howie Mandel is a comedian, and people used to make fun of him all the time because he's a germaphobe. And everyone that knows Howie Mandel, he doesn't shake hands. He doesn't. He'll give you a fist pump, but he will not shake your hand. And every time I met him, it's been a fist pump. He's never shaken my hand. And I didn't get it, but I find myself doing that more often than not because I just don't know. I be like fist pumping the hell out of people at airports now. Yeah, what's up? I go right with the fist so they know. And I think it builds, for dudes, it builds camaraderie. Because if I see a celeb or somebody that I admire and then they come with the fist pump, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a cool thing we did together. I think it's better than a handshake. Just myself. All right. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, April 27th to 29th at the Helium Comedy Club. Then I get into May, and I'm in Omaha the first weekend of May, and Bridgeport, Connecticut, May 10th to the 12th. Then Philadelphia, May 18th to the 20th. And something cool happened, too, in Philadelphia. Robert Kraft went and visited Meek Mill in prison. And I just thought, that's like two of the most opposite ends of the spectrum. But then when I really thought about it, I went, not really, because the Patriots have had so many Super Bowl victories. And after that, you hire entertainers to perform for the team when you win the Super Bowl. Right afterwards, wherever the team hotel is, they'll hire like Rick Ross, so they might hire Meek Mill. So it kind of made sense that Robert Kraft, being a over 70-year-old white dude, would be more in touch with the hip hop community than most other rich white guys because he's had to hire numerous hip hop artists for the Patriots because they keep winning. Now, Mike Brown for the Bengals, he probably don't know who Meek Mill is because they ain't had no celebrations. And that's my squad. But he's never had to hire anybody for a celebration for the Bengals. April's always a good month because the NFL schedule comes out. So NFL fans, this is the month. The draft is this month. Outside of the Super Bowl and the season, this is the biggest month for football, man. The draft and the schedule comes out. And as soon as the schedule comes out, I always call my agent and we try to work my schedule around the Bengals schedule. But I always got to temper it because I don't want to miss out on money or move some stuff around and Bengals end up sucking. And here I am, worked my schedule around so I could be in Cleveland in November and the Bengals suck. So speaking of Cleveland, I'm anxious to see who they're going to pick in the draft. I've heard it's gone from Darnold to Josh. I think it's down to Darnold and Josh Allen. We definitely know it's going to be one of them two. I think Josh Rosen and Baker Mayfield have fallen back to the second two quarterbacks. I think everybody knows the first two is going to be Josh Allen and Sam Darnold. Then the second two is going to be Rosen and Mayfield. Now, we don't know the order. That's what's going to make it interesting. And then right in the middle of all those quarterbacks, they're going to throw in Saquon Barkley. And so the draft is going to be interesting. And there still might be some moves. Everybody's moving up and down and everything else. So I'm curious how this is going to play out. The one quarterback that I think is doing everything wrong is Lamar Jackson. And I'm rooting for him. And I had an outside shot that the Bengals would get him in the second round, but not hiring an agent and having your mom negotiate, and then he's hard to reach and he didn't want to run the 40. I just think who's ever in his ear, and I understand you want to save money and things of that nature, but I don't know who's giving him his advice, but it's not great advice. And sometimes you wonder, but the thing, right, Lamar Jackson, he definitely needs an agent to have relationships with certain teams and posture and scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type deal. Where I remember years ago, Andre Johnson from the Houston Texans, he was the third pick in the draft. And I think it was Carson Palmer, and then it was Charles Rogers. It was Carson Palmer, Charles Rogers, And then Andre was third. And I don't know who was fourth, but I was talking to his uncle, and his uncle said Drew Rosenhaus was after Andre hard. He's a Miami guy. Andre played at Miami. He was like, yo. And Unc was like, no, they got a lawyer. And they said, look, we're not going to hire all these people to represent Andre because we know where he's going. He's going third to Houston. Everybody knew it. He said, so all he's going to do is wait for the number 2 pick to sign and the number 4 pick to sign. And then we know we're going to get less than 2 and more than 4. That's what they went in. They let the 2 guys sign around him. And then Andre came in with, okay, this is what we're going to get. It reminded me of Mike and Molly. I don't know if you guys know that TV show, Mike and Molly. But when that show came about, Melissa McCarthy is the wife on that show. But the star was Billy Gardell. Billy Gardell was the star, but Melissa McCarthy got casted as his wife. So when Mike and Molly gets started, Bridesmaid comes out. Also, Melissa McCarthy is that girl. She's the lead girl. And after a couple seasons, when you do a live studio audience for TV shows, they always announce the cast before you start filming. And the live studio audience always claps, and always the star comes last. The star gets introduced last. So if you was ever at a taping at Martin, they would have Tommy and Cole and Gina, and then Martin would always be last. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Will Smith was always brought out last in front of the live studio audience. It'd be Uncle Phil and Carlton and everybody else. But Mike Amanda is like, yo, Melissa's like the shit now. She's the biggest name on the show. So Melissa went in to renegotiate her contract and was like, hold on. I just want to be very, very clear. This is a story I heard from a reliable source, but I don't want to be like, it's factual. And then people comment like, Gary, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But it came from a reliable source. Melissa went in to renegotiate her deal. And then Billy went in, and instead of like negotiating, this is all he said. He said, yo, whatever you gave her, I'll just take the same. And he walked out. And that was the negotiating. But part of it was Melissa started getting introduced last on the show. That was part of the deal because she was becoming the bigger star. So Billy didn't care. He's like, look, let's all renegotiate. The show's a hit show. Michael Molly's a hit show. Whatever you gave her, I'll just take the same. And he walked out. I go, beautiful. That made sense. I was like, that was a great negotiating tactic. But I want to know, the rumor is that just coming out is the Patriots are interested in taking Lamar Jackson. So we'll see if that happens, because there's this rumor that there's this ongoing feud between Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and Robert Kraft, that Belichick wanted to keep Garoppolo, and Kraft was like, we're not getting rid of Brady. We're not, no matter what the circumstances. When Brady says he's ready to leave, that's when we're letting him go. But we're not getting rid of him. And I think Belichick was like, damn, I got the quarterback that can keep the Patriots relevant in the playoff hunt for the next 10 to 15 years in Garoppolo. Brady, we don't know how long he's got, but I'm guarantee it's under 5. And I'm being generous, lucky to get 1 or 2 more years out of him. But now that Garoppolo's gone, and I also think Belichick wanted to be like, I can do this without Tom. As much as he loves Tom and probably they did a lot of great things together, he's probably like, I want to prove that I can win a Super Bowl and I can take a team without Tom Brady and make him win. And but to me, he's done that. He did that with Matt Castle when Brady tore his ACL, because the Patriots went 11-5 that year. But I think he thinks he's got the right players in place that he could make a deep playoff run and possibly Super Bowl without Tom. I tend to lean with Robert Kraft and obviously Brady, because I'm like, when you got a guy that's done so much for your franchise, you got to let him ride off. This isn't a guy that was pretty good. You're talking about the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, ever. You know, I saw Joe Montana. I thought nobody was better than Joe Montana until I see Tom Brady. I mean, Brady just does more with the least. So, NBA playoffs, Minnesota Timberwolves in the playoffs for the first time in 14 years. I didn't know it'd been that long since Minnesota's been to the playoffs. That's crazy. 14 years? So 2004? That doesn't seem right to me because Garnett was there. And Garnett left in 2000 after the 2007 season to go to Boston because he won the title 2002. So they didn't make the playoffs for 2 years, 3 years with Garnett. And I just read that. So, I mean, it has to be true. They said it's the first time in 14 years Minnesota made a playoff. That's crazy Minnesota didn't make the playoffs with Garnett the last couple of years. Because they had a squad at one point when they had Malik Sealy and Zerbiak had come into the league and Garnett. Here's a great story about Kevin Garnett. When this had to be like 98, 97, 98, 99, somewhere around there. So Garnett's young. He's with the Timberwolves. My wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, and my oldest son, Emilio, he's my stepson, but he's my son. Emilio had to be 8 or 9, probably younger. So it had to be 98, 97. So he had to be 7 or 8. And they were on a flight from Minnesota to LA, or vice versa. It was LA to Minnesota. And my wife said Garnett came back to their row. My wife and my son was in coach, and Garnett brought my son up to first to play video games with him on the flight. So you got to realize Garnett was young. He came in like in 95, 18, 19. So he was probably 21, 22. And he sees an 8-year-old kid that plays video games, I'm sure. So he brought him up, and my son sat in first class with Garnett the whole flight because I guess Garnett had bought both seats. They wanted nobody to sit next to him. I mean, he is 7 foot. And first class is first class, but 7 foot, 7 foot. I don't care how big first class is, 7 foot, 7 foot. And I just thought that was a cool story. And then I go to Minnesota like in 2001, and I don't run into Garnett. I run into a bunch of his boys out after my show one night. And I told him the story, and his boys like, that sounds like Kevin. That sounds like him. I was like, so that was just the coolest story that he went back and got my son to play video games with him the whole flight from LA to Minnesota or Minnesota to LA. I can't remember which one it was. And a similar thing happened. My son Emilio, my oldest son, who's 27 out, when he was like 10 or 11, he would go visit his dad, his real dad up in Oakland. And then we were living in LA at the time. So he'd fly in and out of Burbank on Southwest. And I remember I picked him up one time. I was at the airport. Even though 9/11 had happened, if you are waiting on a unaccompanied minor, they let you through security. So I'm waiting right at the gate. And he gets off the plane, and this big white dude gets off with him. And I guess I found out the white dude played for the Raiders. I don't know what his name was. But the same thing happened. They were sitting next to each other on Southwest, and they start playing some kind of video game. But I think this was one of the handheld games. It wasn't like on a laptop or anything. And I go, both my boys, Emilio and then my 17-year-old son, Austin, Emilio kind of went away from gaming, but Austin, that dude's a gamer. Jeez, every time he's around anybody, man, that dude, he might start his own program one day, like gaming program. That dude's more about computers than anybody I've ever met, is my 17-year-old son. But the Jazz have been playing out of their mind lately. And I think there's this little beef going between Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell of who should be Rookie of the Year. Is Ben Simmons really Rookie of the Year? I say no. I say once you get drafted, whether you get hurt or not, that's your rookie year. You declare for the NBA draft. You are a rookie. So you're in year 2. Because here's the difference. Donovan Mitchell was at Louisville last year. He had to go through, the workouts, get drafted, didn't know where he was going. So you're kind of like in flux for like 4 or 5 months. Ben Simmons got drafted by the Sixers, got NBA coaching, got NBA practicing in, got to use NBA facilities, was in one place, had a home. And I like both of them. This is not a knock on Ben Simmons at all. I like him. But if you go ask me Rookie of the Year, I just don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. Once you're drafted by a team, that's it. There's a difference between when David Robinson came out and he had to sit out 2 years out of the Naval Academy to fulfill his commitment to the military. He didn't have NBA coaching and NBA facility work out or anything like that. Ben Simmons, he's been with Philly for a year and a half now. To me, Ben Simmons isn't a rookie. He's in year 2. Donovan Mitchell is a rookie. So if I was voting, I would vote Donovan Mitchell. And he might win it regardless. Even though people technically say Ben Simmons rookie, the way he's carried Utah, that's another thing. Gordon Hayward leaves Utah, goes to Boston, and Utah's better. Utah did make it to the second round last year with Gordon Hayward. So we don't know yet. But you never can tell. Nobody knew Donovan Mitchell was going to be like that. That's a crazy part about college to pro. I mean, look at Michael Jordan. It's clear that Dean Smith held his game back for the team in North Carolina. Now, it paid off. They won a national title. But sometimes you just can't tell, is it the team or the coaching holding the player back from flourishing? And then it goes vice versa. Sometimes a great college player just can't translate to the pros. I've asked numerous people in football and basketball, when somebody that ends up being a great pro athlete, did they know in high school? Like, I got an uncle who's was a high school coach in Cincinnati, and he coached Luke Kuechly from the I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Kuechly from Carolina, the linebacker. And I asked him, I said, did you know? Did you know Luke was going to be a great NFL player in high school? He goes, when you're in high school, you never know about the NFL. It's too far off. You just know if they're a Division I college football player. You can usually tell that right off the bat. You can never tell if somebody is going to be an NFL player out of high school. They said, but we knew Luke was definitely going to be a productive Division I player. He said he also said they would come in the morning and Luke would already be there. So if school started at 7, Luke would be at the high school at like 5:30 in the morning watching film already. And he's like that way in the pros. I said, dang, my son would have got to school at 8. He would have just been like, I'm going off natural ability here. Now, a funny story about my stand-up. I was in Columbia, South Carolina. It's my Sunday night show. And this dude passes out in the front row. And I put it on my Instagram and my YouTube page. If you go to my YouTube page, that's the better one because you see the whole video. But this dude was in the front row and he was a huge fan. And it's weird because he caught my eye on Instagram earlier that day because he said, Gary Owen coming to Columbia, I'm going solo. It almost sounded like he didn't even tell his friends. Like he just found out and got in the car and was driving over to the comedy club. And I was on stage and he's sitting in the front. He was such a huge fan. Like he stood up when I walked on stage. He knew a lot of my jokes, like old jokes, not current jokes, old jokes. And then I always try to end my show with, when I got one show, I end with a Q&A. I'll say, you guys got any questions? And often leads to like some fun banter between me and the audience. But I go, you guys got any questions? And this guy had been loud the whole show. Respectfully loud, not interrupting the show, but, you know, he would just yell random shit out. Like he was like, talk about Michael Blackson. Talk about Tekashi 6ix9ine. I go, I'm going to get to it, man. I can't rush into all my jokes. But he just knew everything. And I've had 7-hour specials. I think he knew all of them. He was like clapping real loud. And then he just passes out. Because I said, you guys got any questions? And somebody said, wake his ass up. And I go, wake who up? And I looked over. His head was completely back, mouth open, arms crossed. He ain't moving. So I was filming him. And then I had somebody literally went over and checked his pulse. And they gave me the thumbs up, like, he's okay. And so after we filmed him, I put him on Instagram and everything. Then if I woke him up, the dude woke up, didn't know where he was, and just woke up clapping. Dude, did he wake up clapping? So long story short, I made sure the club made sure he got an Uber home. And I gave him all my merch. Like I sell T-shirts and DVDs and stuff after my show. I gave it all to him. I was like, dude, just went hard by himself. I'll tell you one thing I've been dealing with this week. Not dealing with, but me and Michael Blackson was having fun with each other, doing that. We were bagging on each other. And it was, you know, we were all having fun with it. And people know me and Mike know we're not serious. So Mike challenged me to say the N-word. He said, I bet you won't say it. And he called me the N-word about 30 times. And he called me a colonizer. Said I smell like a white people smell like wet dogs. He based it in every white stereotype joke. Your wife's with you because of your credit score. Small dicks. We got small dicks. So when he challenged me to say the N-word, I have my dog. I smell my dog. I said, Mike, I heard you said I smell like a wet dog. I go, my dog's wet. She smells amazing. and then I had the dog kiss me. I go, white guy shit right there. And then I said, you challenged me to say the N-word. I said, of course I'm not going to say it, but my wife will say it for me. And my wife was saying it for me. We was like, Michael Blackson, you punk ass N-word. And I'd be like, ho, you punk ass N-word bitch. Right? So I never said it. My wife said it. Now keep in mind, that joke is from my special True Story, which came out in 2012. So it's 6 years old, that joke. I haven't done it since then, but I did it as a sketch this time. Man, you got all these angry black people that start coming at me and my wife, call my wife a bed wench, a hoe, I'm an undercover racist. I was waiting for Gary Owen to fuck up. What they don't realize, and my wife was like, that's why I didn't want to do it. I go, Kenya, I had to tell my wife, listen, everyone that's mad about that joke are just mad. And they're black people that are mad at anything not black or anything that they deem disrespectful to black people. But they don't realize they're the real racist ones. They are. Now, I had people send me comments like, Gary, I still fucks with you, but I didn't like that bit. I respect that. That's fine. But, but comedy is to make the uncomfortable comfortable. So what kills me is Michael called me every name in the book, and I laughed about it. It was funny. I do this one thing, but you ain't mad at Mike, but you mad at me. No, the problem is you're the racist one. There's white racists and there's black racists. And then people got on Erykah Badu because she said, I love you, Gary. Like, she backed me. And they're like, here she goes again. I go, so you just hate everybody that has a different opinion than you. But if you look at, I would go to people's pages, I'd be bored, and I'd go to people's pages that were like talking crazy to me and stuff. And they're mad at everything. And they act like they're pro-black, but what they really are, they're anti everything other than black. And they're anti against black people that don't agree with them. That's the crazy part. You mad at black people that have a difference of opinion than you. If somebody disagrees with you on you still out Uncle Tom, bed wenching, whatever. I'm like this. Oh, okay, that's good open dialogue. That's good. I call them fake woke. I mean, how you mad at that? And that's what I told everybody. It was a sketch. That's the key word, sketch, comedy. It wasn't real. That's not how me and my wife really are. Come on, give us a break. But then they were like, you're not invited to the barbecue or cookout. And I was like, I'm still coming to cookout. Wanna why? Because it's not real. It's a fake cookout, you dumbasses. And I'm bringing a potato salad, but I'm not going to bring it. Why? Because it's not really potato salad. Because there's no real cookout to bring it to. Idiots. But what kills me is you mad at that, me doing the sketch of my wife saying the N-word. But you ain't mad at Dave Chappelle for doing the KKK sketch? Like, what's worse? But you know why you wasn't mad? Because it wasn't Dave. It was a sketch. It was a comedy show. And that's the same thing me and my wife is doing. It's on Instagram. You know the beef isn't real. You know it. All we're doing on Instagram is making 60-second sketches when you do bits like that. That's all you're doing. You're not on TV, but you're on your phone and you're making sketches. So you're not mad at that. You're not mad at the Dave Chappelle and the KKK episode. And you're probably one of the best and most iconic Saturday Night Live moments was when Richard Pryor and Chevy Chase was hurling racial insults at each other. And then it kept getting progressively worse. And then Richard Pryor just goes, honky. That was like he threw the sword down, honky. And Chevy Chase he says the M word. And then Richard Pryor goes, dead honky. It's like, it was just iconic, but it was so funny because it made the uncomfortable comfortable. And Chevy Chase said what a lot of white people probably want to say, and Richard Pryor gave the response that a lot of black people wanted to say. Chevy Chase ain't racist. Richard Pryor ain't racist. It was a sketch on Saturday Night Live. Keyword, a sketch, comedy. And that's what kills me. People act like, I lost a lot of respect for Gary with his wife, and she should have stopped this bed wench. The bed wench got me. I had to look up what the bed wench was. I didn't even know what it was. But as soon as you go to cussing out and saying shit like that, I go, okay. And then most of the guys, they had like some Afrocentric name and they act like they're so pro-black and they know the real blackness. And I'm like, dude, you're so one-sided. You can't have a discussion. I'd be happy to talk about it with people, but it kills me with shit like that. It kills me with shit like that. I haven't done a crazy stepdad story this week. I'll give you an update on my brother. I haven't brought up my brother, the drug case. He goes back May 8th, my brother, and he'll get sentenced. He pleaded guilty to the drug charges he had. And, if you don't know, if you haven't listened to podcasts before, my brother got busted back in November with methamphetamines, heroin, fentanyl, and he had $5,000 tied around his neck that he said he got from construction. Okay. And the cop caught him in the middle of a drug deal. So he pled out, and they just got him on 3 felonies, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th degree felony off possession. They couldn't prove he was dealing. They just got possession. And he went to court April 3rd, and he pled guilty, and he gets sentenced May 8th. He could get a couple years probation, could get a couple years in jail. Just depends on how good the lawyer is and whatever. But there recently was a huge drug bust in Middletown, Ohio. And this dude had ties to the Mexican cartel. They said if anybody had drugs coming in and out of this area, they had to deal with them some kind of way. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know my brother was singing like a bird. He was snitching to keep his ass out of jail. Ain't a doubt in my mind. But you know what? I'll get into that more after he gets sentenced on May 8th, and I'll have a better idea. But, I'm ostracized from the family. I've never done drugs. I've never been arrested. I've never done anything to, quote unquote, embarrass myself or the family name, so to speak. And I'm not allowed around the family because I'll speak honestly about my upbringing and how my stepdad is. But then you got my brother. One brother's passed away. My other brother has been a drug dealer his whole life and user. But you'll stand by him. And not saying they shouldn't. That is your son. You got to stand by your son. But how do you ostracize one that's doing everything right and work it out in your brain that it's okay what the other one's doing? I don't understand that. I don't understand that as a parent. And just my mom. How do you like disown your son? I don't get that. I don't care what my kids do, my stepson or my real son. I'm going to have their back and be on their side no matter what. There's guys on death row whose parents go visit them. I don't want to go that far. I don't take my kids over to anything like that. But, there's people on death row whose only visitors are their parents. My mom and stepdad are afraid of the truth. They're not afraid of me. They're afraid of the truth. That's what they're afraid of. So, that's it. All right, this is Gary Owen. I'll see you guys next week. Another episode of Get Some.